very good. Business has been very good. As you know, my company, Global BB Report, we work in Europe. Um, so right now, um, I plan to go back to Europe in July. I'll be there most of the month of July in Greece, talking to parents and players that want to attend school here, well, attend university or go to high school here in the U.S.
Oh, and when you go to Greece, I know what part of Greece do you go to?
I'm in the Athens
All
area,
right, yes.
but I stay out in a beach house off the Mediterranean, right outside in the suburbs of Athens.
That's beautiful, and that's awesome. I would imagine at this point you've gone so many. You've been going now for a number of years, and so I would think that you pretty much know the lay of the land, not only in terms of athletes, but just physically.
Yes, I believe this is my eighth year going to
Yes.
Athens, Greece
Okay.
itself. So the area is very nice. The city's very nice. I've actually been up. I did the mile and a half walk up to the Parthenon to do the tourist thing up there.
And when those certain things become obligatory. Now, I do know that you do Global BB Report, but just for our audience, so they would know what you do, tell us about the nature of Global BB Report and the structure and how you operate. Yes, sir.
Well, basically, Global BB Report, we work with the NBA as part of working with their seniors draft combine in Portsmouth, Virginia. It's called the PIT. Uh, we bring in 64 seniors to play in front of all 30 teams. And for 4 days, they play, they received interviews from the teams. Uh, Most of the teams have not seen these seniors, at least the scouts haven't. And so they can do an evaluation, do interviews at the hotel with the players. And those players right now are getting looks for two-way contracts, G League teams, Exhibition 10 contracts.
So so when you go in and you're not going at this point. You're not going just there raw. You already have some good background and players that you want to see. People let you know in advance that this is a player that you need to look at and have direct eye contact with. Yes, sir.
Yes, this year, out of the 64, there were 11 players that I had a chance to either evaluate in person or I was asked a second opinion on that player. So I had to make sure I went out to see them play. Um, that's the part I really enjoy is going to the games, evaluating them in person. It's kind of tough for me to evaluate a player off the television or off cable. I like to be there in person so I can see what kind of athlete they are, how they move, how quick they are, how they interact with the coaching staff when they come out of the game, sit on the bench.
Now, now for someone such as myself, looking at not necessarily a full professional in the arena, but and I did serve as athletic director a while back over at my university, our university years ago. But do this for me. What is the schematic that you use in terms of the evaluation? Because when I say about the schematic, to usually look at say, this player may be great for this level, this sort of team, or under this particular type of coaching environment, whatever. What do you do?
Well, my evaluation process depends on
All right.
what the NBA is looking for. Um, they're not looking for 5'11" point guards, so we kind of cut those right out. If they're too small, you can't. They're not going to play in the league unless they do something extraordinary, like if they get a G League contract and do something extraordinary, like Alvarado for the Pelicans. Also, what are the NBA teams looking for as far as big men? Everybody's looking for a rim protector now, rebounder, and then that person, the post player playing the opposite, say the four position, power forward. That person has to be able to step out, knock down a three consistently, but be able to protect the basket, have ball handling skills that can help because they want to keep the floor open for their guards and their one post player that's in the post. They don't want that four person's defender to drop off and double up anybody.
Now, in terms of you mentioned the NBA, the NBA Combine, and you were telling me about the nature of the Combine, that the Combine now has three different segments. Can you tell us about the three segments that you have? Three? Yes, sir.
Well, the NBA now basically has their footprint in 3 different combines. They have the seniors only combine, what they call the Portsmouth Invitational (PIT). Then they have the G League combine, 48 players there, playing in front of all 30 teams, and then they have the big Chicago combine, the one that ESPN always televises. Um, at the Chicago combine, no matter where you are in the draft process, if you're a predicted draft pick, top 60, they make it mandatory that you attend because they want to get your measurements. They want to make sure that what they see on the rosters online from the universities is basically your size. And there's always players that come in listed on their university rosters as like 6'10", and then all of a sudden you're measuring them for real with their sneakers on, and they end up being like 6'7". So
Amazing.
Yeah.
but that's not surprising. We do know how that can work. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a mandatory thing for Chicago because most of the top draft picks, lottery picks, they're not going to play, but they make it mandatory that you come in and get measured.
The combines, the combines are essential, are they not?
I believe so.
Okay,
But
yes.
teams
All right,
sometimes
okay.
they're, you talk to one team, they don't think it's important because they believe their scouting staff is all they need. But with the advent of the two-way contract in the G League, with every team having a G League team, that's why I believe, especially at Portsmouth Invitational, because it's a seniors-only combine, you can get players from that to play on your G League team or get those 3 two-way contracts.
Okay, explain the nature of the two-way contract.
Two-way contract is a player that you sign that can move between your G League team and the main roster. They can go back and forth, and you count them as part of your 15 players on your roster. Now, each team is allowed to have 3 two-way contract players.
Well, I've discovered that the G League, sometimes the basketball playing in the G League is exhilarating. And to tell you the truth, it seems as though I want to say they play harder, but from my approach, they do play harder.
Yeah, they are playing hard because they
Yes.
want to make the 12-man roster. They don't
Yes.
want to be those 3 guys on a two-way contract because they want to get if a player makes it to the roster from a two-way contract and they're a rookie, then they get the rookie minimum, whatever that is that year, depending on the CBA that year.
Well, while we're still talking about the NBA, tell us about the home team, the Pelicans, the new general manager, and what's taking place over there. And I want to get your thoughts.
Well, we have a new general manager in. He says he's going to keep Zion as long as Zion can get through his court cases and all that stuff. And this will be his 7th year. So he's got to be able to play a full season. And that's one of the biggest things when I'm looking at college players. They're used to playing 30, 35 games. All of a sudden now in their NBA, they're playing 82 regular season games, let alone going to the playoffs and playing and all that stuff. So there's a big transition there. And there's what we call a rookie wall. Now, you get a player who's on your roster, 12-man roster, he's a rookie. It's hard for him sometimes when that wall hits, after maybe 40
And it
games.
will hit.
Yes, and it will
Yes.
hit. Because you're talking about traveling, playing one night. Now the NBA does charters, so you're going right from the game to your charter, either go home to the next city. So that means you're not getting home until 3 or 4 in the morning, or you're not getting to the hotel in the next city till 2 o'clock in the morning. So you have to get used to travel. You have to get used to the travel, practice, and you have to take the scouting session seriously. There's guys on the roster, they're on the staff where all they do is videotape. So you get in the next morning, you have to sit down with your coaching staff and your team and go through the scouting report of the team you're playing that night. And there's a guy that's been up to probably 5 in the morning cutting videotapes and plays and all that stuff for you to go over with the coaching staff. So it becomes a grind, and that's what hits a lot of players.
Well, you know about that personally, because that's how you started your entry level back in the day.
Yes. When I was in college, I started out as the video coordinator, which was great because our team was ranked We had 3 lottery picks, and my roommate was a lottery pick. So I'm actually at the end of the month going to go speak at his basketball camp back at Wichita State. First time I've had a chance to do that since he runs a nonprofit where they bring in 350 kids for a day camp in Wichita, and it's free.
Well, okay. Oh, that's outstanding. It's good plug. That's great. Everybody, if you find themselves in Wichita, or they should find a way to get their kids to Wichita. Uh,
Yeah, he does.
yes.
He does a great job. Xavier McDaniels was known as the X-Man in college and in the NBA. He was what they called an enforcer
Yeah.
in the NBA.
And every team needs an enforcer. Truthfully speaking.
Back in the day, yes. Now they frown upon that.
Well, when they get to the playoffs, you need someone that I think they can indeed. And I understand what you say because you're the professional, but you need to have someone that has an intimidating factor. I'm old school; I can't help it, but that's just the nature of the beast. And I know that you talk about the Pelicans, but I want to get this one definitive statement from you in terms of Zion's future with the Pelicans. What's your view?
Well, he's in a court case right now in California, but it's not a criminal case. It's just someone suing him. So I'm hoping that this is like a wake up call for him that he has to be a professional. I think when CJ McCollum first came to the Pelicans, I remember after the end of the season when they lost in the playoffs, and I never forget that interview he did after the game they lost. And he was talking about players on the team have to become professionals. And to be a professional basketball player, you have to take care of yourself 12 months out of the season now. You have to work out in the summertime. You have to keep yourself in shape. You have to eat right. All those things, because you have to remember that this is a job now. This is not fun and games like high school and college. In college, you're only limited to 20 hours on the court a week. Now in the NBA, if your jump shot's not on, they expect you to be in the gym 6 hours working on that jump shot, and the staff will be in there with you. You're working on it. What mechanics are wrong, or what are you doing wrong? And they expect you to be in the gym till it gets corrected.
Yeah. And again, that's what a professional is about. Yes, sir.
Correct.
And let's do this. And let's turn the conversation because I want to talk about the NIL deal and the new activities that's taking place with respect to NIL, the court case that just came out last week. Talk to us about the NIL and the reformation of this process.
Well, the name, image, and likeness settlement came out the other day, and the judge ruled that each Power Four school could divvy out $20.5 million per school. And that means the school can actually pay the players themselves. They don't have to use a collective outside to collect the money and then distribute it depending on what the coach asks them to do. Now, you can still do your own NIL deal outside that 20.5 million, but it has to go through a clearinghouse now for it to be approved because they want to make sure it's not a pay for play thing. They want to actually make sure that the person is paying you for name, image, and likeness, like putting your name up on a billboard, doing a commercial. They want to make sure that, like I said, it's just not pay for play anymore. So the interesting thing about that is how the money gets divvied up. The latest numbers I've heard lately is football, 75% of that 20.5 million. Men's basketball, 15%. Women's basketball, 5%. And then the rest of the Olympic sports, 5%. So that all together that equals 100%. So the next thing that's going to come down the line is Title IX.
Yes.
Somebody's going to complain about, or if my program, say for instance, the men's soccer coach, and my team is winning more than football and basketball, both basketball teams. So he'll go to the athletic director and say, "Hey, I need more than that share of 5% that I got to share with 15 other teams to get, to keep my program up."
Right. I can see it because I can look at where you're from. When you look at the Eastern Seaboard, New York, those are basketball communities. And then when you go to the southeast and southwest, you look at SEC football communities, and there are some divisions there that exist. And certain places are just genuinely basketball schools. But here in the SEC now, we're discovering that there's certain schools now are saying we're not just football anymore. We're also becoming basketball schools, and to demonstrate it, they're getting big name basketball coaches. And the same thing is happening now with Duke and the ACC and those places. They're getting big name football coaches because before they was deemed just to be basketball schools, but now the big name coaches are going there. Yes, sir.
Well, with the new settlement, everybody says the Big East has the advantage because they don't. Big East is a basketball conference. If they play football, it's at a lower level. So they're saying what the SEC, Big 12 are saying that, well, the Big East schools, they can give that 75% to their men's basketball program. So they will out resource us as far as how much money they can pay the players to come in and play for them. So, I'm from the East. I grew up in college watching Big East. Big East was huge at that time. Big East is the only conference that had 3 teams out of 4 make it to the Final Four. So they're getting back to that point where they're bringing in coaches, and some coaches could see the handwriting on the wall, so they left schools and went to Big East schools. Richard Pitino
Yes.
left New Mexico to go to the Big East. The Maryland coach left, Willard. He left to go to Villanova, and they could see the handwriting on the wall. So smart guys moved in the right direction.
Yeah, and when you see those things, you recognize it. Now, I want to talk during this period as well about the nature of the portal and the teams, and because we know our local teams here, they are they're looking at the portal real well, and teams look at it. First, talk about the nature of the portal in general, and then also about the local teams and what they're doing, LSU and Tulane.
Well, for people that don't understand, if you're on a scholarship at a university, and for some reason you want to move, say, for instance, you want more playing time, you want a bigger NIL deal, then you have to put your name in the transfer portal, and that lets schools know that you're available to transfer in. A lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but the bigger schools, the Power Four schools, have done a great job of combing the transfer portal to find players that can uplift their program. It's no more at the Power Four schools where I bring in a freshman class and I grow with them, even through losing and all that stuff. But now it's like, all right, I made it to the NCAA tournament this year, went to the first round, lost. So my boss, the athletic director, is saying to me, all right, in evaluating your program, where do you think it'll be next year? So I got to get to the second weekend for the NCAA tournament. So whatever flaws I have with the players I have to go in the transfer portal and say, I need a shooter, I need a point guard, I need another post player. So you go in the portal and you try to recruit that type of player to make your team better next year. If your program's at the point where you have to bring in more than 4 players, I think you have a problem, because if you bring in more than 5, you only can start 5. So if you bring in 8, 9, which I've seen some coaches do, there's going to be some guys grumbling about not playing, because here guys making NIL money, but that money is based on your performance, and you want to be the best that you can be by getting more playing time and using that opportunity to expand your NIL deal.
How does a coach and a player adjust to the portal?
Well, a coach now has you have a new position on coaching staffs now called the general manager, and you hire that person to help you navigate the portal. How much money you're giving this person compared to this person compared to this person. And you as a head coach have to sit down with the general manager and your athletic director and say, all right, this is the money we're going to distribute to these guys. And once you bring that player in, you have to sit down with them and say, well, you're making $1 million playing basketball here. So these are the things that I expect you to do. If you look at the transfer portal and you go online, There's a lot of recruiting services that have ranked the players in the transfer portal and how much money they're making.
But if there's a 19, 20-year-old that's making seven figures or so in the portal, or even high six figures, uh, how do you control that player when you understand the nature of the mindset, should I say, of those young, they're not adolescents anymore, those young adults,
Well, what
which
you
are still maturing and
yeah,
evolving. Yeah.
but the thing you have to remember is most of them want to go to the next level. So that's how you have to talk to that player. All right, you're making 1.5 here. All right, and you're going to be drafted by the NBA. So these are the things you need to work on. And that's one reason you convince a kid to come there, because you tell them I can get you to the next level. But these are the things you're going to have to do in our program to get to the next level. So that's the part of his ego you have to talk
So
to.
you keep it aspirational.
Correct.
As long as you keep it aspirational, then you're okay. Now, honest, you were telling me that, and because you've done your homework with those schools, and that LSU has seven, Tulane five. Uh, what would that do in the portal? What does that do for them?
Well, LSU this year has more NIL money.
Yeah.
So they went out and spent it. I think the last player they
Yes.
signed was a guard from Israel. So, and I've seen some other players. They've signed a point guard from UNLV who's very good. A little small, 6'1", but he's a very good player. The player from Israel, I believe, is like 6'4", but he's played some professional basketball in Europe. So I think he'll be more ready to come in and play. Now, Tulane has brought in 5 players. Um, I know talking with, just giving my opinion when I was asked by someone on the Tulane staff, uh, where do you think what do you think we need to do as far as recruiting and bringing players in? And Ron Hunter loves to play his zone, and that's all he plays. Even if he's down 30, they'll sit in that zone. So I was telling him, Jim Boeheim was the same way.
Right.
But Boeheim had pros playing in
Syracuse.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had pros playing his matchup zone, and that's what I was telling him. I said, yes, you need to get taller. You need to have 6'9", 6'8" athletes on that back line, so they can block shots. They can, if they make a mistake mentally in the zone, then they can cover it up with their physical ability, with their athletic ability.
And again, that's indeed part of the analysis. And I see what you're saying in terms of the young athletes, and you get them into the program and they prepare themselves to go to the next phase. I'm thinking now that from what you've done and looking at these various players, and you see our teams doing what they do, I want you to address women's basketball too, the program. Talk about the WNBA, and also talk about the nature of the women's programs here in Louisiana. In particular, we're looking at LSU, yes, but in particular, yeah, talk about the women's program and the WNBA. What, with respect to the WNBA, stands out to you right now in terms of the players and how we're looking at it, how it has evolved over the course of the past 3 years? Well, you can go beyond, but I'm looking at 3 years, 3 immediate years that we can look at right now. Yes.
Well, the WNBA has done a good job of making themselves viable as far as making money.
Okay.
So now all the teams fly charter. They don't fly commercial. I know that was a big deal for them when they first started. They wanted to fly commercial and all this stuff, and they weren't making any money. And people have to remember that the NBA subsidizes the WNBA. But now they're making enough money with the NBA subsidizing them, and with the outside money coming in, sponsorship, selling seats, all that good stuff, that they make enough money now to charter. So I think that's a very good thing. They have some headline players. And in order, any sport, any professional sport in the United States, you have to have people, you have to have athletes and players that are going to be headline players
Right.
for you.
That's a nice formula that they have.
And they've done a good job with Angel Reese and Caitlin the last year or so. And last year was the first year they actually had a chance to charter. Locally, I do follow LSU's women because Kim Mulkey, I was an assistant on the men's side at Louisiana Tech when Kim was an assistant on the women's side. So we go back years. So I know what kind of coach she is. I know how much she's dedicated to coaching, and how much she is dedicated to the young ladies in her program to for them to evaluate as
And she
18-year-old
brought in some young
girls.
stars too,
Yeah,
some
and
twins
wins.
recently, and some others. Yes.
Oh yeah, she's always going to do a good job um, recruiting because she does have that gift of gab now. She can get in that home and talk to that parent and like and that player and say, if you come to LSU, and she's doing well. They're getting a large gate for the women's games
Yes.
compared to the men's games. So you're hoping the men's team can turn it around at LSU. But she's done a great job, and for as far as women's basketball, that's the one I kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, and we should. Who do you think is going to do well this year? What teams should we pay attention to?
On the men's side,
On the women's, men and women's side, NCAA, yes.
well, the men's side, we had to wait for the NBA to close their putting your name in the draft. They give you a deadline when you can pull your name out of the draft and go back to college. One of the teams I like, University of Houston, because their point guard who tried out for the NBA got some feedback, but he decided to go back to Houston. So that makes Houston one of the top teams in the country. And same thing with Purdue. On the women's side, you're hoping South Carolina does well again. Connecticut has
These perennial teams.
Yes. And that's the way women's basketball is right now. You just have those perennial powerhouse teams, and it does help that those are the programs that have the most NIL money also.
Yes, and
on
they
the
can
women's
go and
side,
get,
yes.
They have a history. And so in the remaining minute or so that we do have, you can tell our listening audience what can we expect from Global BB Report and your thoughts on athletics at this point and recruits that we all should pay attention to. Some names we may not know about or should we recognize?
Well, one thing I'm keeping my eye on, the draft is 2 weeks away, and the amount of international players will
Yes.
surprise you. France, I think right now has 6 guys that are draft eligible for those 6, the first and second round. And so looking at the international players, I think there was a total of maybe 15 out of the 60 slots. I think that people will look at international players to draft, especially in the second round. I know one of the things that I look at as far as my business in Europe is a lot of those players want to come here and play college to get the NLI money, the top talented players, because if they play professional in Europe, they won't make as much money as if they get an NIL deal here in the U.S. So when I'm there in July, there's like 4 or 5 agents that would like to speak to me about their players coming here to play college basketball and get that NLI money.
Well, that's outstanding. Any final statements you want to make to my audience?
Well, I enjoy that you bring me in here. I think I enjoy my time talking basketball with you.
We need to. It's a necessity.
Yes.
You have
So
to bring in an expert.
it's a fun time for me, and summer's slow. So, I emailed you and said, hey, when you need me, call me.
Oh, yeah, and this is something we like to do on a regular basis. I think you're outstanding, and you always bring a good message. And I want to say, again, this is Dr. Clark's One-on-One, The Living Classroom. You can follow me on all platforms of social media. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, sir.